We live in a complicated world, and I believe we, the people, have the right to know what's happening in our towns, cities, and states. The mainstream media does not have our best interest at heart, and I want to share some information from around our great nation so we can fight back by being informed. Join me each week as we go after hours and get behind the scenes to uncover the truth. We live in a complicated world, and I believe we, the people, have the right to know what's happening in our towns, cities, and states. The mainstream media does not have our best interest at heart, and I want to share some information from around our great nation so we can fight back by being informed. Join me each week as we go after hours and get behind the scenes to uncover the truth.
Is Janet from another planet? 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 Is Janet from another planet?
Today's digital landscape with the spread of false information can lead to dangerous outcomes. It's crucial for everyone to think critically and verify sources and reflect on the impact of what they share. Let's promote responsible communication to ensure that truth prevails and actions remain rooted in reality.
The opinions you're about to hear on this show are strictly those of the panel.
The following program is rated TV MA LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
I started to think back, or what do I wish I would have had someone saying to me? What kind of support do I wish I would have had? And then becoming that very support that I wish I would have had as a Division I football player. So that opened the door.
I was really lost because I didn't know what direction to go in. And my mom was the one that basically instilled in me. She was like, well, you've always loved talking and you love sports. You've always loved sports. And that's kind of what led me.
My audio's out. Darn it. Sorry. Fart. Thank you very much for telling me that my audio was. I always turn off my mic. I don't know why. And then I forget to turn it back on. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But I wanted to share this because this is really interesting and eye-opening. So here we go.
You were going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated. Yeah. Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us, you get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
Thank you. Are all objections to COVID vaccinations ideological bullshit, Dr. Fauci?
No, they're not. And
Thank
that's
you.
not what I was referring to.
Well, that's exactly what you meant when you said making it hard for people to live without getting a vaccination. You affected people's ability to work travel, be educated, to actually flourish in American society, to self-determine, as we're all given God-given rights. Shame on you.
You were going to have schools.
I've listened to it over and over again, and it's disgusting. It makes me sick to my stomach. And it's sad that so many people just were blind by this. I didn't get the jab. I didn't do any of this. I didn't get tested. I didn't test myself once with the thing up my nose because I didn't know what was on it. I had seen videos showing little kids, I think it was in India or somewhere like that. There was a dirt floor and there was a family sitting around on the dirt floor with these long sticks, and they were taking them out of one container and sticking them up inside of a plastic thing and sealing it, not wearing rubber gloves, not in a laboratory, on a dirt floor. And then they were putting them in boxes and sending them out for testing kits. And that membrane between your sinuses and your brain is so thin, it only takes a tiny tear in there to get microbes and nasty stuff that's out here in the air inside next to your brain. I mean, it's just all of this stuff just really chaps my ass, really makes me angry because so many people were forced against their will, basically, to get a shot that they didn't even need. You can't see your grandma, you can't see your mom, you can't see your dad, you can't see your brother, you can't see your sister, you can't see your kids, you can't see this person, you can't see that person, you can't buy food, you can't get gas, you can't do anything if you don't wear a mask. That's what they told you. Then it was on top of that, it was, if you don't get the jab, you don't get to keep your job. You don't get to this. I lost lots of jobs because I didn't have that little card that I could have paid somebody $500 and got a fake card and stuff. But to me, I wasn't going to do it. I just said, no, I'm just not going to get it. And I'll wash dishes. I'll dig ditches. I'll rake yards, whatever it takes, I'm going to do whatever I have to, odds and ends wise. And if I end up living out of my car, at least I'll try to keep paying for my vehicle. That's where I was at. So I'm thankful. I'm really thankful. But this guy is a piece of crap to do that. And look at his smug look on his face. He disgusts me. Him and Hillary Clinton are the two most disgusting people in my world that I've ever seen. They are repulsive and disgusting. They just make me sick. But after I did that, I'm going to share everything people were saying about me not being able to have my mic on. God. Oh, I just hate this. I'm so stupid, but I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm muted. I wasn't even reading the chat either. I was too busy trying to get all my stuff up there in order. And yeah, my audio's out. I know. I'm really sorry. I hope it's fixed now. You can hear me now, right? Yeah, thank goodness, because you wouldn't have been able to hear him either. So, oh well, I'm glad I fixed it. But thank you, Crazy. If it hadn't been for you sending me that message on my phone, I would never have known. I've been sitting here still gabbing. But oh well, I'm not a pro. That's why I don't get paid to do this. I just do this for myself. Try to learn something and get a brain and to share information to other people. But yeah, I'm going to share that little juicy tidbit in the chat really quick because I think everyone should be sharing this. And I'm so thankful that we do have people in our government that want to make sure that we get the truth out, because this guy did intimidate people out of their work because it was supposed to be Hillary Clinton that was going to be president and put everybody in camps that wouldn't get jabbed up and stuff like that. Take your homes, whatever, you lose your jobs, whatever else they could do. I really do believe that. But when Trump won with overwhelming numbers that they couldn't cheat fast enough, he said, you get it if you want it. He didn't say they could force you, because it isn't. They can't force you against your will to do something in the United States of America. They sure tried, though, didn't they? They lied and cheated, did whatever they could to manipulate you, to get you to sign the dotted line or stick that up your nose or whatever. And the one time I was sick, I was nauseous. That's it. I didn't have a fever. I was just nauseous. And I told this story before, but they wanted to take a swab at my nose. And I said, no, you have to take my blood. And I watched them take my blood. And it was negative, as I knew it would be, because I poisoned myself on accident with Raid. That's what happened to me. But I'm going to move on to the next thing that I've got. Because, man, that was he's repulsive, isn't he? He makes you want to barf. But yeah, he's a terrible, terrible person. And I hope he gets what he deserves. I really do. I hope he gets what he deserves. And I hope we can give it to him, the American people. But this next one, all of these kind of go together and in and out of this same subject. But they're all, to me, very enlightening with different types of information about it. So I want to play a few of these because these come. I like X because I can't use things off YouTube because they'll give me a copyright and take my channel down again. I've had that done a few times, and I don't want to risk, getting my channel taken down for weeks at a time or completely down because they don't like what I say or because I'm using someone else's content. Even though I'm not getting any money from it. But the thing is that I want to share the information. That's what's important. And so I'm going to open this up, make it a little taller. Yeah, we go, and turn it on.
I'm really worried. We have a hantavirus outbreak in a cruise ship, and everybody's wanting to do it all over again. Are you freaking? Is not a respiratory virus. Stop it. Stop it now. Stop the news agencies need to stop. Everybody needs to stop. Hantavirus has been around a long time. It's nasty. Yeah. So is TB. So is a lot of other things. So is rickettsia. Let's deal with the rats problem downtown in Los Angeles. We have murine typhus and pneumonic plague breaking out. Deal with that. But I digress. The fact is that there are structural and philosophical excesses in public health that need to be kind of addressed. And is anyone in public health thinking about this?
I don't think they are. I mean, I think one of the most healthy, useful outcomes of the COVID era was the absolute loss of credibility of the public health religious cult. And, also, I think we all go into public health, just like when people go into medicine.
The thing is he went off on it because he was upset. Yeah, I know what it's caused by, but the thing is, I'm going to show you here in a little bit on some of the inserts of the COVID vaccine that they were giving out. It said that one of these you could get this because you got the jab. It's very, very little, like, they're covering their ass or whatever, putting everything in it, basically, in the kitchen sink. Because if you got sick from this, that, or the other, it's it's possible this could happen to you if you get the shot. So I just thought that was really, really interesting because he was going off on it, saying that this is, here we go again. They're trying to do something else, and here comes another election. So people will be too afraid to go because I'm going to get caught. I'm going to catch this or I'm going to catch that if I go vote. See what I mean? These people are going to stop at nothing. These people are going to stop at nothing. Anything they can try to do, they're going to try to do it. So be ready, because who knows what is right around the corner, because these people are not going to stop no matter what. They are not going to quit. So I'm going to stop that one. But yeah, I got some other things like that I'm going to show you from the insert. I thought it was very, very interesting, some of this stuff. But I'm so lucky because I have a few people that do post this stuff in my shit show chat. Well, this is it right here. It says the hantavirus is listed in Pfizer's 38-page document. Page 33 is one of the 1,233 side effects from the virus when you get the vaccine for it. And I'm going to click on this now to make sure you can see it because I have to go back. Yeah, okay. Right here, if you go all the way down on page 4 of this one, it says hantavirus right here. These are all could be side effects of your vaccination. You know, it doesn't say right away or anything. It just says that you could possibly get these things. Look at this herpes. Tons of stuff in here. If they handed this out to everybody to let you read before you got the shot, how many of you think anybody would have gotten it? Very few people. But I just wanted to share that because there's a couple of these, and I've seen 4 or 5 different people sharing that different stuff about that whole thing. Yeah, I know. I think you're right about that. I've been hearing lots and lots and lots of people talking about this. And I don't know. I'm really suspicious, but I used to donate blood every month. Okay. But then I started donating white platelets, because my platelet count was really, really high. And I said it was really healthy and I could help hemophiliacs with it, which is harder for them to get, is white blood cells. So I used to do that. And I have gotten almost 4 gallons of blood I've given, over the years since I was in high school, when I was old enough to start giving blood. But the thing is, I don't do it anymore. The only time I'll give blood is if one of my friends or my loved ones are in the hospital and I need to go donate blood right then. I'll go because I'm going to watch what they do. But honestly, I just don't trust any of these people anymore to donate my blood to them. It would have to be someone I know and go there for them, because I won't go to a Red Cross or any of these people anymore because I don't trust them. Do not trust them anymore. Pretty bad, huh? But it's sad, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's a lot of other people feel the exact same way as me about donating blood because of the fiasco that we've been through. We don't trust people anymore, and that's exactly what Fauci was saying. You make it to where there's topsy-turvy, they feel like they have nowhere else to go, and they'll comply. See. This was something I thought was interesting, because many times I've talked about all the beagles that were in laboratories, and that I was getting all these leaker videos before Trump, got reelected or anything. It was all about these laboratories that they were using to try to get the vaccine out and other things. All the beagles were dying, every single one of them. Like 4 different laboratories. One had 12, one had another amount like that, but every single one died after they got it. But then they didn't put it in any of their reports, so that's why they were leaked out. Well, this is something that she's doing, and I thought you guys would want to hear about it. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Hi, everyone. You may know that I love animals. And from the time I was a young prosecutor, I started prosecuting animal cruelty cases. Well, of late, you may have heard of Ridgeland's Farms. It is a facility, a research facility in Wisconsin that was using beagles for research. They use beagles apparently because they're small in size and they have a very docile temperament. Well, it appears that a special prosecutor identified them as having violated standards in some of the eye procedures that I will not get into because it will make you sick, that it was conducting on beagles. As a result of that, Lori Simmons, Big Dog Ranch, and a lot of significant people got involved to rescue these beagles. So far, there are 1,500 beagles that are being rescued as a result of a deal where literally the dog rescuers have to pay for the beagles in order to get this research facility to give those dogs up. Now, the Ridgeland Farm will lose its license because they were selling the beagles to other facilities so they could do research on them. We really have to stay on top of these facilities that are really abusing animals under the title of doing research. These animals have no options. I mean, they're victims, complete victims. And what's happening to them is outrageous. And a special shout out to Lori Simmons and the Big Dog Ranch, which has done incredible work on behalf of abused animals. If it were not for Lori and people like her, this deal would never have been accomplished. God bless you, Lori, for everything that you do.
I just shared the link for that. in the chat. So maybe if you're interested in getting a beagle, one of the rescued 1,500 beagle, you might be able to apply for one. So I put that in the chat. So if you want to try to get one of the beagles and rescue it and make it your own, now you can. But I think it's wonderful. And everybody keeps saying how this administration is not doing shit. They're not doing anything. Nobody sees anything. Well, if you only watch, ABC, CBS, NBC, some of those other channels like that you're never going to see anything. You're going to see nothing. You're more likely to find out good stuff by being on X or Instagram or TikTok or Rumble or a few of these other channels or streaming devices than you will ever find out on the news. I hate to say that, but that's just the way it is today. People like me want to share information. That's why, if I find it or someone sends it to me, I try to add it because it needs to be out there. So, oh, isn't it? I know I got a rescue dog right now. Her owner passed away and all his relatives already had, some had 3 dogs. They couldn't take it. And it was a little white poodle-ish dog. So I have her. And she's older. Her name's Angel, but she doesn't really like me that much still because she had a male owner. But I'm trying. I give her treats and take her to the groomers and let her in and out. She has her own bed and sleeps at the foot of my bed with me and things like that. But slowly, I think she'll come around. She's finally starting to go when I get home, like she likes me and I pet her and stuff. So, adopting a pet is not that bad. I mean, it really isn't, especially if you're already adopting one that's not a puppy anymore and they know to go to the door and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really nice. So if you get a chance, might take it. Try to get you a new puppy through adoption because there's so many pounds filled with dogs. If you can't get one of these puppies, I couldn't have a beagle because they're so loud. I babysit. Almost every spring or maybe twice a year, I babysit 2 beagles, and they are so loud. They bark constantly in the backyard, and it's not just a ruff. It's a forever, howling thing. But they're so cute and they're so sweet. Just like she said, their temperament is good. That's one reason why they're not as aggressive as other dogs could be that are getting poked in the eyes and in the legs and whatever with needles. So, yeah. Basically, what's really sad about this is I remember it wasn't this for the laboratories. It was these breeding farms where they'd have like all these female dogs all pregnant, and they're in like cages and giving birth. And then as soon as they wean them and get rid of them, they start trying to get them pregnant again. It's disgusting. It's a breeding farm. And then they sell the puppies online and mail them to you and stuff. I would never buy a puppy through the mail. I would go to their house. If I can't go to their house and get the dog, then I'm not going to purchase it and make it go through and see where they're at. You see how they're being bred. Because I sold puppies, but I had a male and a female Shih Tzus, and only once a year would I let her even have puppies, and only did that for 3 years because it's so hard on your body to keep having all those babies. So, try to be responsible with your pets, cats also, and get them spayed and neutered if you're not going to breed them. So they're not making puppies or kittens that nobody wants. Because where I live in the rural areas, people dump animals out here all the time. Every Christmas, within 3 to 6 months after Christmas, there's kittens and dogs, young dogs running wild out here because the parents bought a cute little animal for their kids. And then when they don't want to clean up the poop or the pee or take care of it anymore, they just take it out in the middle of the country and dump it out, let it starve to death or get hit by vehicles. It's horrible. And nobody should be allowed to do that. They should have to check in every 3 months or something to the vet, showing they saw the dog and they're feeding it. And if they find that dog somewhere and someone reports it and calls it in, they'll be able to track it back to the person who bought it and kept taking it to the vet. You know what I mean? I just I don't know. There's got to be some way to fix that, because to me that's just horrible that people do that kind of stuff to poor little dogs that you wanted. You know what I mean? So let me show this. Oh, oh yeah. I know it's amazing how you can get. My mother always called them Heinz 57s. You know, the dog. You had no idea what was all in there because they're all out there in the wild. You know, because they either got dumped off or whatever, and they just breed with whatever. But what's really bad is if a dog that's too big breeds with a smaller female, she could die trying to have one of the pups and die from it, and then all of them die. You know, it's really sad. So that's one reason why you're supposed to pay attention to what you're doing when you're breeding animals, to make sure they're the right size or whatever. So I don't know. It's just really, really sad how some of this happens. But I'm going to stop sharing that one. And yeah, that was a good article, though. I was really happy when that came across my timeline. But so let's see, what was this other one right here? Yeah, I think this is it. All right. Here's another one that came across, all about COVID also. In the single most shocking testimony you're going to watch in the 21st century, COVID-19 was an act of biological warfare perpetrated on the human race. It was a financial heist. Nature was hijacked and science was hijacked. So I'm going to play this for you so you can listen. Here we go.
It is a particularly interesting location for me to be sitting today, given that over a decade ago, I sat in this very chair right here in the European Union Parliament. And at that time, I warned the world of what was coming. During that conversation that was hosted at the time by the Green and EFA and a number of the other parties of the European Union's various representations, we were having a conversation on whether Europe should adopt the United States policy of allowing for the patents on biologically derived materials. And at the time, I urged this body and I urged people around the world that the weaponization of nature against humanity had dire consequences. Tragically, I sit here today with that unfortunate line that I don't like to say, which I told you so. But the fact of the matter is, we're here not for a reprisal on past decisions. We're here to actually, once again, come to the face of the human condition and ask the question, who do we want to be? What do we want humanity to look like? And rather than seeing this as an exercise in futility, which is very easy from time to time when you're in the position I'm in, I actually see this not as an exercise in futility. I see this as one of the greatest opportunities that faces us, because we now have a public conversation, which is now front and center in people's minds. When this was an esoteric conversation about biological patents, nobody cared. But when that conversation came home, then it became something people can care about. So I'm actually quite grateful for this opportunity. I thank the members of Parliament for hosting this. I thank all of the translators who, I apologize in advance. I will use terminology that is probably very difficult to translate, so my apologies. And I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that many of you are aware of my involvement with this, in large part due to the amazing work of my wonderful wife, Kim Martin, who encouraged me at the very early days of this pandemic to get on front of the camera and talk about all the information that I had been sharing among very small groups around the world. And it was, in fact, her encouragement that put me in a place where many of you have heard what I have to say. Ironically, the world that I came from, that used to be very popular, my CNBC and Bloomberg presentations, which were televised on mainstream media around the world, was an audience that I lost. I can confidently say COVID diminished my fame. But I can also confidently say that I'd rather stand among the people with whom I'm standing today than any of the folks that were part of that previous world. So this is a much better place to be. My role today is to set the stage for this conversation in a historical context, because this did not come in the last 3 years. This did not come in the last 5 or 6 years. This actually is an ongoing question that probably began here in Europe in the early stages of the mid-1900s, but certainly by 1913, 1914, this conversation started right here in Central Europe. The pandemic that we alleged to have happen in the last few years also did not happen overnight. In fact, the very specific pandemic using coronavirus began in a very different time. And we'll try to advance the slides here with one of these things. Oh, there we go. Most of you don't know that coronavirus as a model of a pathogen was isolated in 1965. Coronavirus was identified in 1965 as one of the first infectious replicatable viral models that could be used to modify a series of other experiences of the human condition. It was isolated once upon a time associated with the common cold. But what's particularly interesting about its isolation in 1965 was that it was immediately identified as a pathogen that could be used and modified for a whole host of reasons. And you heard me correctly, that was 1965. And by the way, these slides are public domain. You're welcome to look at every single reference. Every comment that I made is based on published material. So do make sure that you look at those references. But in 1966, the very first COV coronavirus model was used as a transatlantic biological experiment in human manipulation. And you heard the date, 1966. I hope you're getting the point of what I'm saying. This is not an overnight thing. This is actually something that's been long in the making. A year before I was born, we had the first transatlantic coronavirus data sharing experiment between the United States and the United Kingdom. And in 1967, the year I was born, we did the first human trials on inoculating people with modified coronavirus. Isn't that amazing? 56 years ago, the overnight success of a pathogen that's been 56 years in engineering. And I want that to chill with all of you. Where were we when we actually allowed, in violation of biological and chemical weapons treaties, where were we as a human civilization when we thought it was an acceptable thing to do to take a pathogen for the United States and infect the world with it? Where was that conversation? And what should have been that conversation in 1967? That conversation wasn't had. Ironically, the common cold was turned into a chimera in the 1970s. And in 1975, 1976, and 1977, we started figuring out how to modify coronavirus by putting it into different animals, pigs and dogs. And not surprisingly, by the time we got to 1990, we found out that coronavirus as an infectious agent was an industrial problem for two primary industries, the industries of dogs and pigs. Dog breeders and pigs found that coronavirus created gastrointestinal problems, and that became the basis for Pfizer's first spike protein vaccine patent filed, are you ready for this, in 1990. Did you hear what I just said? 1990. Operation Warp Speed? I'm sorry. Where's the warp and the speed? Pfizer, 1990, the very first spike protein vaccine for coronavirus. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't it fascinating that we were told that, well, the spike protein is a new thing. We just found out that that's the problem. No. As a matter of fact, we didn't just find out it was not just now the problem. We found that out in 1990 and filed the first patents on vaccines in 1990 for the spike protein of coronavirus. And who would have thought Pfizer Clearly, the innocent organization that does nothing but promote human health. Clearly, Pfizer, the organization that has not bought the votes in this chamber and in every chamber of every government around the world. Not that Pfizer. Certainly, they wouldn't have had anything to do with this. But oh, yes, they did. And in 1990, they found out that there was a problem with vaccines. They didn't work. You know why they didn't work? It turns out that coronavirus is a very malleable model. It transforms and it changes and it mutates over time. As a matter of fact, every publication on vaccines for coronavirus from 1990 until 2018, every single publication concluded that coronavirus escapes the vaccine impulse, because it modifies and mutates too quickly for vaccines to be effective. And since 1990 to 2018, that is the published science, ladies and gentlemen. That's following the science. Following the science is their own indictment of their own programs that said it doesn't work. And there are thousands of publications to that effect, not a few hundred, and not paid for by pharmaceutical companies. These are publications that are independent scientific research that shows unequivocally, including efforts of the chimera modifications made by Ralph Baric in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. All of them show vaccines do not work on coronavirus. That's the science. And that science has never been disputed. But then we had an interesting development in 2002. And this date is most important because in 2002, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill patented, and I quote, an infectious replication defective clone of coronavirus. Listen to those words, infectious replication defective. What does that phrase actually mean? For those of you not familiar with language, let me unpack it for you. Infectious replication defective means a weapon. It means something meant to target an individual, but not have collateral damage to other individuals. That's what infectious replication defective means. And that patent was filed in 2002 on work funded by NIAID's Anthony Fauci from 1999 to 2002. And that work, patented at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, mysteriously preceded SARS 1.0 by a year. Dave, are you suggesting that SARS 1.0 wasn't from a wet market in Wuhan? Are you suggesting it might have come from a laboratory in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill? No, I'm not suggesting it. I'm telling you that's the facts. We engineered SARS. SARS is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. The naturally occurring phenomenon is called the common cold. It's called influenza-like illness. It's called gastroenteritis. That's the naturally occurring coronavirus. SARS is the research developed by humans weaponizing a life system model to actually attack human beings. And they patented it in 2002.
So I'm going to push pause for a second. Many people towards the very, very beginning of the vaccine, when so many people were starting to have all these problems after they got the jab. Remember all the videos that were coming out, people passing out, falling down. Some people had seizures, just tons of stuff. People were dying of heart attacks, just multiple things. And now people are getting cancers and all different kinds of stuff. And the numbers are going up. And I heard a lot of people calling it a biological weapon. And I remember right when Russia went into Ukraine, and they went strategically to like 6 or 7 places. And people were telling me, people from Russia that I talked to said they were going to biolabs. I wonder why. So then we had to send money to Ukraine so they could fight off Russia
because Russia's the bad guy. Remember when Hillary was trying to frame Trump that he was Russia being colluded, and that he had a PP dossier and all this stuff that was paid for by the Clintons, all that's coming out. All of this stuff hooks together. You know, all these people are made billions of dollars off of all the vaccines and all the boosters. And then they were all given stuff saying they couldn't be held accountable for anybody dying and all this different stuff. It's all of this is just so much corruption. It's just shocking to me that this guy is speaking exactly what we've all, most of us, knew already. That it was definitely a bioweapon, and that some of it had some of the different variations of it had AIDS virus in it. Things like that. People were getting AIDS. Some people were getting cancer. Some people were getting heart problems. Some people were having, problems like with which you'd have with, I don't remember what that's called. Damn it, my sister has it. Lupus, lots of different things, different things like that. So it was like, depending on your genetic makeup, right? And getting this shot, it started altering things in your body and causing the worst of the worst to come out, that type of thing. So I don't know. To me, this is terrible. And I feel bad for every single person who ended up having to get this shot. I really do. That was brainwashed into it or forced into it, basically against their will. It's heartbreaking. But here we go.
And in 2003, giant surprise, the CDC filed the patent on coronavirus isolated from humans in violation, once again, of biological and chemical weapons treaties and laws that we have in the United States. And I'm very, very precise on this. The United States likes to talk about its rights and everything else and the rule of law and all the nonsense that we like to talk about. But we don't ratify treaties about, defending humans. We conspicuously avoid that. We actually have a great track record of advocating for human rights and then denying them when it comes to actually being part of the international community, which is a slightly problematic thing. But let's get something very clear. When the CDC in April of 2003 filed the patent on SARS coronavirus isolated from humans, what did they do? They downloaded a sequence from China and filed a patent on it in the United States. Any of you familiar with biological and chemical weapons treaties knows that's a violation. That's a crime. That's not an innocent oops. That's a crime. And the United States Patent Office went as far as to reject that patent application on 2 occasions until the CDC decided to bribe the Patent Office to override the patent examiner to ultimately issue the patent in 2007 on SARS coronavirus. But let's not let that get away from us, because it turns out that the RT-PCR, which was the test that we allegedly were going to use to identify the risks associated with coronavirus, was actually identified as a bioterrorism threat by me in the European Union sponsored events in 2002 and 2003, 20 years ago. That happened here in Brussels and across Europe. In 2005, this particular pathogen was specifically labeled as a bioterrorism and bioweapon platform technology. Described as such. That's not my terminology that I'm applying to it. It was actually described as a bioweapons platform technology in 2005. And from 2005 onwards, it was actually a biowarfare enabling agent, its official classification from 2005 forward. I don't know if that sounds like public health to you. Does it? No. Biological warfare enabling technology. That feels like not public health. That feels like not medicine. That feels like a weapon designed to take out humanity. That's what it feels like. And it feels like that because that's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. We have been lured into believing that EcoHealth Alliance and DARPA and all of these organizations are what we should be pointing to, but we've been specifically requested to ignore the facts. that over $10 billion have been funneled through black operations through the check of Anthony Fauci, and a side-by-side ledger where NIAID has a balance sheet, and next to it is a biodefense balance sheet, equivalent dollar-for-dollar matching that no one in the media talks about. And it's been going on since 2005. Our gain-of-function moratorium, the moratorium that was supposed to freeze any efforts to do gain-of-function research. Conveniently, in the fall of 2014, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill received a letter from NIAID saying that while the gain-of-function moratorium on coronavirus in vivo should be suspended, because their grants had already been funded, they received an exemption. Did you hear what I just said? A biological weapons lab facility at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, received an exemption from the gain-of-function moratorium so that by 2016, we could publish the journal article that said, SARS coronavirus is poised for human emergence in 2016. And what, you might ask, Dave, was the coronavirus poised for human emergence? It was IV1, Wuhan Institute of Virology Virus 1, poised for human emergence in 2016 at the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, such that by the time we get to 2017 and 2018, the following phrase entered into common parlance among the community. There is going to be an accidental or intentional release of a respiratory pathogen. The operative word, obviously, in that phrase, the word release. Does that sound like leak? Does that sound like a bat and a pangolin went into a bar in the Wuhan market and hung out and had sex, and lo and behold, we got SARS-CoV-2? No. Accidental or intentional release of a respiratory pathogen was the terminology used, and 4 times in April of 2019, 7 months before the allegation of patient number 1, 4 patent applications of Moderna were modified to include the term accidental or intentional release of a respiratory pathogen as the justification for making a vaccine for a thing that did not exist. Keep going. If you have not done so, please make sure that you make reference in every investigation to the premeditation nature of this, because it was in September of 2019 that the world was informed that we were going to have an accidental or intentional release of a respiratory pathogen so that by September 2020, there would be a worldwide acceptance of a universal vaccine template. That's their words, right in front of you on the screen. The intent was to get the world to accept a universal vaccine template, and the intent was to use coronavirus to get there. And the last slide. This isn't advancing, so if I could have somebody do it. Let's read this, because we have to read this into the record everywhere I go. Until an infectious disease crisis is very real, present, and at the emergency threshold that is often largely ignored. To sustain the funding base beyond the crisis, he said, we need to increase the public understanding for the need for medical countermeasures such as a pan-influenza or pan-coronavirus vaccine. A key driver is the media, and the economics will follow the hype. We need to use that hype to our advantage to get to the real issues. Investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process. Sounds like public health? Sounds like the best of humanity? No, ladies and gentlemen, this was premeditated domestic terrorism stated at the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2015, published in front of them. This is an act of biological and chemical warfare perpetrated on the human race, and it was admitted to in writing that this was a financial heist and a financial fraud. Investors will follow if they see profit at the end of the process. Let me conclude by making 5 very brief recommendations. The last slide. Nature was hijacked This whole story started in 1965 when we decided to hijack a natural model and decide to start manipulating it. Science was hijacked when the only questions that could be asked were questions authorized under the patent protection of the CDC, the FDA, the NIH, and their equivalent organizations around the world. We didn't have independent science. We had hijacked science. And unfortunately, there was no moral oversight in violation of all of the codes that we stand for. There was no independent, financially disinterested, independent review board ever impaneled around coronavirus, not once. Not once. Not since 1965. We do not have a single independent IRB ever impaneled around coronavirus. So morality was suspended for medical countermeasures. And ultimately, humanity was lost because we decided to allow it to happen. Our job today is to say, no more gain-of-function research, period. No more weaponization of nature, period. And most importantly, no more corporate patronage of science for their own self-interest unless they assume 100% product liability for every injury and every death that they maintain. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. That is so informative. I think everyone should have to watch this video. Explains everything step by step, where it came from, and what they did with it. As plain as day. Even someone like me that doesn't know that much at all about science when it comes to testing, shots, any of that stuff. And I've seen this guy for many, many, many years talking about this different stuff. And it's a shame that so many people were so greedy and wanted millions and billions of dollars more than they wanted to see people not die from a man-made virus, basically, manipulated virus. And it's sad to see this. But I think everyone should watch this. Everyone should watch this and make their decision. And he's right. I don't think we should be able to make anything like that in any country. Not just in America, in any country in the world. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. And but I thought that was really, really, really important to share that with you guys. So it's not easy to take, is it? When you sit down and you listen to it. But the thing is, that is powerful. I put it in the chat. I'm going to bring it up here. See, I posted it just like this, and I had to break it up in small pieces because wouldn't let me put the whole thing out at one time. But this bottom one right here, see this right here? U.S. funded by the U.S. taxpayers. This whole thing is the real_Rob in. And it has everything you just saw was on this link right here. So if you can copy that link and go there, then you can get it and share it with whoever you want, and share it as much as you can. See, just like he said at the beginning, he said, please share this so people can see it, because we need people to see it. But I'm going to share this next thing because this is another one. Where is it? Hold on. I think it's this one. Yeah, here we go. Here is Fauci again when he was younger. Never forget that Anthony Fauci was wrong and lied about everything with AIDS before later doing the exact same thing with COVID. But the thing is, this man made lots of people very, very rich. And those same people wanted to make more money using this man. Because remember what I said at the beginning, none of these people, or the people up at the top making all the money, got the shots. And I seem to remember somewhere in the news that people that work for the Postal Service could be exempt. They didn't have to get it either. To keep their jobs. like a lot of people were told, well, if you don't get the shot and you're in the military, you're going to get kicked out of the military. If you don't get the shot and you're in this company, you're going to get kicked out. We're not going to keep you. And so a lot of people left, and other people said, well, I can't lose my house. I won't have my cars. I won't have all the things I worked so hard for. So they got it. So basically that's being forced, not being able to leave your job and try to find another job, that kind of thing. It's not easy for everyone depending on your own job. But I just thought it was horrible. But I want to play this for you so you can listen to it. Make sure it's turned. It's not really long, but here we go.
Starting to see, as we're seeing virtually as the months go by, other groups that can be involved, and seeing it in children is really quite disturbing.
When you say other close contact, give me some examples.
Well, for example, if the close contact of a child is a household contact, perhaps there will be a certain number of cases of individuals who are just living with and in close contact with someone with AIDS or at risk of AIDS, who does not necessarily have to have intimate sexual contact or share a needle, but just the ordinary close contact that one sees in normal interpersonal. Starting to see. See, he was lying about, if you are a parent, let's say you're a parent and you had anal sex with someone or whatever, and you got AIDS, okay? Because that's what we thought at the beginning. That was the only way to be able to get it, right? And he said that wasn't true, basically. That if you have a child living with you, let's say, or an elderly person that's living with you, and you hug them or you talk to them or touch them in different ways or whatever, feeding them, changing their clothes, those type of things, that maybe they would get AIDS. See, when everybody knew the only way you could get AIDS was by getting tainted blood, if you're a hemophiliac or whatever, or you share needles with another person, because, if you're doing drugs, you're probably going to share. And if you had sexual relations with somebody that had AIDS. And that was how you could really get it. But here you got Fauci saying, oh, you could probably give it to your kids or your, other loved ones in your house if they stayed with you. Stuff like that. So the guy is just a liar. He's just a huge liar, and he makes lots of money for lying to everyone because he didn't have to tell the truth, and no one's forced him to tell the truth. So it's just disgusting to me. He's disgusting. The fact that he just lies and lies and lies and gets away with it. But hopefully something's about to change on that whole thing. But let me pull up this next one. Let's see. I think it's this one. I'm gonna close that. So I'm not going to share that one. It's just. I was just trying to back up the fact that he lied to everyone over and over again, and then he conveniently comes up with another lie to try to cover up the one he just told, so that he can just keep going down the road and getting his checks mailed to him or money put in his bank account. So he's happy as a lug because he can do and say whatever he wants, and nobody's going to hold him accountable for it, which I hope they do. But more and more of it's coming out. So here we go. I'm going to share this. I thought this was good. It says March 2021, the FDA warned that the Bayer's analysis algorithm could hide or mask safety signals from the COVID shots. So I want you to listen to this. This is pretty interesting. Make sure it's turned up.
Well, I recommend everybody reading my 38-page report. It's unmasked how Biden and health officials purposely turned a blind eye toward COVID-19 safety signals. What happened, Maria, and this is unconscionable, this should be all over the news media. I don't think one legacy media is covering this story. The office inside FDA that's responsible for vaccines and vaccine safety, on March 1st of 2021, they were warned that their algorithm that analyzed VAERS would hide and mask safety signals. 26 days later, they were given a new algorithm that showed 25 very serious adverse events that they had safety signals on, including sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, Bell's palsy, stroke, and they hit it. The person who they all recognized was their expert at data mining. They shoved her off to the side, told her to cease and desist. This is a major scandal. We're going to start interviewing the people involved. But I appreciate you mentioning this. Every news media, this ought to be a lead story on news media. This is a grotesque abuse of power, and people suffered. People died. People were injured because they were not warned, not getting fully informed consent on the COVID injections.
See, that's another part. See, there's so many tentacles coming off this whole thing, not just Fauci and Bill Gates, like you just said. Bill Gates also was involved in a lot of this stuff. But the thing is that all the hospitals that fired their nurses because the nurses found out more and more about the COVID vaccine, and then they didn't want to give it to their patients. Okay. They didn't want to poke their patients when they knew that it wasn't good for them to have it, or put them on a Remdesivir instead of whatever the other one is. I can't remember the name of it now. The other drug that's cheap and generic that they don't make money, they don't make huge profits off of, so they don't want to prescribe it. They want to prescribe something that they're going to make a lot of money. The truth was, though, that Remdesivir made more people worse, not better, because it didn't help, and ended up putting them on a respirator. And usually, very, very rarely, do you get off of one. Rudy Giuliani did, but most people don't. Every person I known in my real life that were ever put on a respirator for any reason never got off of one. They died. They all died, every one of them. So, we have got to stop standing in the corner afraid to speak about this stuff because, we're going to lose our platform. We're going to be shunned by our families, or we're going to be called a Nazi or whatever nicknames are going to call you. Okay. Because I've been called everything. I mean, I get death threats. I get everything. And plus they take my channel down. They've done tons of stuff, and I can't get a single real person to talk to me about it. I still have a warning up every single day that I get up and try to get on my channel and do anything on YouTube. I already have a warning that's been up there for 2 years. I can't get them to take it down. I didn't even realize I even had it until I had to take some kind of class so I could go live. And they said that it would be down off after I took the test, that they would take it down after 90 days. Well, guess what? It's been 2 years and still up. I still have a warning. So I start with a warning every day, unlike other people. But, they don't like me. So, that's why they wanted to give people Remdesivir, because they wanted more and more people to end up with that diagnosis. That's what I believe. And I know. So it's true. But the thing is, they arrested people. They've arrested people in different places around the world because they didn't want to give the jab. And then there was a couple people that were giving saline solution and not giving the real stuff, all kinds of stuff. So basically the only way to find out if you did really get the jab or not get the jab is to get your blood tested. That's it. And I can tell you right now, I've already had my blood tested once, and I've never had COVID, not one time. I never had it. And I never got the vaccine. So, there's very few people in the world left that weren't, lied to enough to get a jab. Half my family's got multiple pokes. My sisters, and my dad was one of them. He's no longer with us. My mom is not here anymore. A lot of my friends have, gotten sicker and sicker and are still getting sicker. So it's heartbreaking to me. And I want to see the truth. I want to see the truth come out, and I want the people to be able to have an option of some sort to do something for themselves. Because honestly, if you have a loved one that's murdered, right? They're murdered and they're buried in the ground now. And then you get the evidence and you catch the person who did it. And then you drag it out through court for 3 or 4 years. Okay. And they get the death penalty, right? Everybody's cheering, hoo, 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 just like what they just did with the Athena Strand. Okay. She was murdered 4 years ago, and her guy finally got to go to court and he got the death penalty. But now guess what? How long is he going to sit on death row? How many times does the family still have to go to try to get him to go to get put to death on his next appeal or whatever type of thing. It could be 15 to 20 more years before they put him to death. Actually get some justice for Athena and her family. And that's bullshit. Why? And that's the same thing we're doing now, is that we're kicking the can down the road. By the time they finally decide they're going to do something about it, about all this lies and stuff like that, most of us might be in nursing homes ourselves if they drag this out for 20-something years or longer. It's terrible. It's sad to think about it, but that's basically what they do. That's why we have to stand up and demand truth. We have 3 years right now under this same administration to prosecute people. Let's start prosecuting these people, put them in Gitmo, wherever we have to round any of these people that were involved in any of this shit up and get to the truth. And we can start out in each of our states. And I do have something about that. So let me pull that up real quick. Let's see. Sorry, I got to see which one of these. Hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to read all these. I'm trying to find out which one it was. Maybe it's on my channel. Darn it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to I'll put on the next one and then I'll go try to find it on my channel. On my YouTube channel, I put on there about 3 states that are right now suing. So let me find it real quick and I'll open it. Here it is. Okay. Let me get this link and I'm going to open this link to go. Is it in this one? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put it right here. Okay. Now I'm going to go open this one. I think it's this one. Hold on. Really hard. Okay. This was the one I was going to show you. All right. 3 U.S. states have introduced legislation designating COVID-19 mRNA injection as biological weapons of mass destruction. Tennessee, Bill SB 1949, Arizona, Bill HB 2974, and Minnesota, Bill HF 3219. It says this is because the mRNA shots have killed, injured, and disabled more people than 100 plus Hiroshima nuclear attacks. So that's what I think is important that people know about this. But the thing is that it's a start. But that's how we take back the United States, one state at a time. Because we got to remember, each of our states have their own constitution. So each state might be slower than the other state. Some states might be really fast at being able to get things through their state constitution and through their, their process in their state and how it runs. Because every state's different. I mean, Texas, I thought was one of those ones with the, the swinging doors on their death sentence, but they're not. This whole thing, this trial I've been playing little by little and talking about on my channel is all about that little girl, that little 7-year-old that was picked up by the FedEx driver. But that was years ago. She was murdered years ago, and it took this long just to get him to plead so they could go to court. And a court wasn't even for whether he was guilty or innocent. It was to pick whether or not he was going to get the death penalty or just life in prison. Okay. And it took forever. And now that he's been given the death penalty, it'll be another 15, probably to 20 years before he's finally even put to death. So it's all this red tape is just drags everything out forever and ever and ever. And it costs so much money. And if you were having to fight it, let's say the parents, every single time he tried to appeal or did anything and they had to fight it, would get a lawyer and do all this stuff, they would have nothing. And that's the saddest truth, is the victims end up with nothing, and the people that are attacking others are the ones that end up rolling in the hay. It's like they got so much money, they don't know what to do with it. And it's disgusting that these people keep getting away with it. But I just wanted you to see that the whole thing about the 3 states. So I'm going to share. I'm going to get that real quick, and I'm going to share it in the chat. And this is the link right here. I'm putting in there right now. This is the link that talks about the states, the 3 states that are, and I have it posted on my post area of my YouTube channel, where you can go down and look at it and get the information off of there too. I thought I had it already up here, but for some reason I didn't. I don't have it. But let me stop this. And then I'm going to close that one. Okay, let me see which one I want. It's going to open now. Oh, listen to this. Oh, this makes me, I hope I go to sleep after this, because I get so angry at this man being such a disgusting person. I think it's this one. So let me open this and see if I'm right or not. Yes, this is it. Okay, pause it. All right. I'm gonna pause this. It says, Dr. Fauci says he's still deeply disappointed in Americans for not taking his vaccines when he demanded them to. He is such a narcissistic pig. But here we go.
That's another whole problem in society. Is if the vaccine was accepted by society, we didn't have an anti-vax problem. We would have had a much, much more effective distribution of vaccine in this country. You're absolutely right. I mean, if everybody universally accepted that this was a safe and effective vaccine, we were trying to get 72% of the population vaccinated, and we never really got there. Whereas other countries had 85, 90% of their people vaccinated. So I think it depends on the country. That's different than the inequity that you have globally, which is, I think, more of a problem, that we had people getting their second and third booster before people in the developing world were getting their first shot. That's it. That's just unconscionable.
Just listen to that disgusting pig. I mean, to me, he's a pig. He's talking about his vaccine like he's God, okay? And that how good it is and how it was going to save so many people, and how he's sad that so many people are anti-vaxxers. We're not anti-vaxxers. Almost every person's had vaccines for different reasons. But the fact that we didn't want his vaccine because we didn't trust it, he thinks we're idiots. You know, they talk down their nose to us. But the fact that it wasn't any good in the first place, why do they have to have all the booster shots? What are the booster shots even doing? Every person I know that's gotten the shots and the boosters, they look, you know, twice their age now, and they're sick. They got something wrong with them. Heart problems, stomach problems, skin problems, blood problems, cancer, all kinds of problems. It's terrible. And this guy sitting there all smug, upset because not even 70% of America got the shot. But did you hear what he said about some other countries? 80-something% of people did it. What happens when they all die off and there's nobody having babies because the women are infertile? What happens to those countries? Oh, well, we'll go in and we'll just take over the country and run it for them, because we're not going to need land. We're not going to need cows because we're going to have lab grown meat stuff. This guy's disgusting. He just makes me want to barf. Can't stand him. Oh, people like that just make my skin crawl. He is disgusting. But this other one, because I think it was Rand Paul that was saying something about trying to get him to, I think this is it. Okay, here's the one. Okay. Senator Rand Paul calls for the indictment of
evil Dr. Fauci immediately. Millions died, trillions were spent. Fauci walked away with book deals and fawning media coverage instead of handcuffs. The evidence is overwhelming and justice has been delayed long enough. And that's what Senator Rand Paul was saying. And I just wanted to share that real quick because, yeah, it's disgusting. He's disgusting. Oh, and I guarantee it. Oh, I would love it if there was a way that they could force him and his family to get tested to see whether or not they even had the vaccines, because I don't think they did. I mean, honestly, he knows what he's talking about. He's been doing this all this time, in these laboratories and stuff. There's no way he gave it to himself or gave it to any of his family, because, they're smart. We're going to need these smart geniuses in the future when I'm not around anymore. So you can't get this. You can't have this spike protein in your body. And remember, last week I shared a video of the new vaccine for dogs and cats for flu and rabies, which means they shed all over you. When they cough, the little spike proteins come out and get on you, and they shed the virus on you. See, cells. So I won't be getting that one. It's on my show from last week in the chat, and I try to do the replay so that when you go back, you can see the chat that's next to it, so that you can definitely not give that to your dog. I don't recommend giving it to your dog or your cat if you can help it. But here is something else. I've played this young man a couple of times because he's been trying to get people to take better care of themselves and to find out more about your own health and what you can do for yourself. It says, we now have clear evidence that the COVID shots have crippled the reproductive capacity of humanity. In animal models, they destroyed over 60% of women's non-renewable egg supply. Because remember, all young girl babies, when you're born with all the eggs you're ever going to have in your body, and until you'll start shedding one egg a month once you hit puberty, once everything's in there, so that a baby can grow in your uterus, one egg at a time. Usually, that's sometimes twins or whatever. But once you get older and you stop shedding eggs, you start running out of them, because as each month one matures enough to pass through the fallopian tubes and go into your uterus and attach to the lining of your uterus to have a baby, right? Well, once you get older, you stop making the eggs or producing your eggs, and then you go through menopause. Okay, that's the normal cycle of a woman. Okay, that's what her ovaries are for. Her ovaries make estrogen to help the body produce the egg, bring it to the full age, and then put it into the womb for it to be fertilized, so she can have a baby and carry it in her womb for 9 months. And for 9 months, her body knows not to produce any eggs. So that's why women go through menopause at different times, because if you go 9 months, you're not shedding. That's 9 eggs that you haven't shed that year, that you're going to keep on until the next year. And then they'll start maturing again. So the more kids you have, the more eggs you're going to have later in life. So that's basically how it works, because you're born with all the eggs you're ever going to have. So we don't know how many eggs you have. But it's sad. It says in human data, in equals 1.3 million, vaccinated women have 33% fewer successful pregnancies than the unvaccinated. So your body's having a hard time producing a healthy egg, because there's a lot of factors that you could have a miscarriage, because let's say 2 sperm hit an egg at one time, okay? And one of the sperms was bad or something. It could be different things that cause the egg to the body to reject the egg because there's something wrong with it. Okay, just like a mother rat will give birth to her babies and she'll have a baby that has no legs or things like that, and she'll eat it. Okay, because she senses something's wrong with it, even though she's not a human, she can't
tell us what's wrong. She knows something's wrong, so she gets it out of her litter and gets rid of it by eating it or taking it out of the cage and getting rid of it, because she's not going to waste milk feeding one that she doesn't feel is going to survive. Same thing with baby birds. I'll push it out of the nest, things like that. That's a natural way of doing it. Well, your body, you don't do that because it's in your uterus. So what happens is you miscarry because something is wrong, chromosomal areas or whatever. Lots of different things can cause it. But it's sad because now it's saying that it says that 37% of placentas from vaccinated mothers contain lethal spike proteins. So what's really hard for me is the fact to know that in my being, I feel like they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that when they did these things to us, to the people all around the world, not just the United States, all around the world, by doing this was going to reduce the population of the planet. And that's why I know Bill Gates was involved, because he's done nothing but say that kind of stuff since I've been a kid. That's all I've ever heard him say, that we need to reduce the population of the earth because we're ruining the world. We're killing it with carbon monoxide and blah, blah, just tons of stuff that were lies and scaring people into thinking that that's what was going to happen. So I'm sorry if I'm ranting or whatever, but it's just sad to me that we are in a position where we're having to fight for our lives, basically, against people that were in our own governments, not just the United States either. I'm talking about Africa and all other countries, India, Europe, all these other countries did the same thing to their people. Somehow, the very, very top people in these countries, including the United States, were able to talk to each other and talk them into why we need to do this, for some reason, which is really scary. So, hello. Thank you for stopping in. But yeah, I'm talking about a few things about the COVID stuff. And since I didn't want to bring it up tomorrow night on the Friday Night Shit Show, we'll stick with mostly what's going on with politics and stuff. And we had so much stuff that came out this last week about this, what we're speaking about. That's why I decided to do the whole show just on this stuff, because it's scary and sad. Yes, that's the sad truth, isn't it? If you each day you get this and this and this and you read it, and then tomorrow you get a couple more things and you read it, and then you bookmark it and you put it aside and keep them, right? And like I have in my bookmarks on X and in my shit show chat, I have tons and tons of these links, right? So if I wanted to, I could go all the way back to when I first started doing it, back before the vaccines even came out, when people were passing away in nursing homes and stuff, and they were trying to do something. They were saying they were trying to do something new, but what they did was they released something into the environment, made people sick, and now they had to have a cure for it. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like anything. If they're going to make money from this, because this is the medicine for whatever ails you, right? Okay, they have this medicine and I know it works, but nobody's sick. So we're not making any money. It's just sitting on the shelf. It's wasting, getting dusty. That's what they're looking at. So let's make people sick. Let's get people sick enough to where we can pull out this vaccine and spike it up, make it do more than what it needs to do, so we can control how many babies are being born. But what's scary is that people talked about it before, about how we were slave owners. Okay, I wasn't. My family wasn't, because my family was American Indian. We didn't own slaves, as far as I know of anyone in my background, as far back as I could go, 6 generations, 7 generations. But the thing is, it's basically the same thing. Because when you bring someone over the border, let's say a couple young teenage girls and maybe a teenage boy, and you tell them that you're going to have to work for me to work off what you owe me for bringing you here. So you make them into sexual, prostitutes so that you can make money off of them. And then you also make them clean, you make them cook, you make them work in yards, you make them do whatever, and you keep, they're slaves basically. So it's slave trade is what you're doing. Okay. With this, they call it trafficking, but it's the same thing. They're not able to come and go when they want. They're not able to make any decisions for themselves. That's a slave. There's no other word for that. But where's the uproar for most of these people that were saying they want reparations? Why aren't they griping about all the human trafficking? I don't know. To me, it's so lopsided because people aren't looking at the overall situation that we're in. They're just looking at the one part that they're in, and that's all they care about. It's like my Uber Eats is here. Leave me alone. I'm gonna eat. Just nothing. It's just terrible to me. I just see a bunch of selfish brats that want stuff right now, and they don't want to work for it though. Oh, why do I have to work? I got this piece of plastic. I'll just pay for it with this. Okay, when I could have drove down the street and bought a Happy Meal for $10, brought it home, but instead they wanted Uber Eats. So now that same Happy Meal costs $30. So it's just dumb. All of this stuff is stupid. That's why they're getting away with so much, because there's too many people like that don't want to do anything about this that we're talking about. Oh, well, I don't want kids anyways. Whatever they make excuses for the people that are made them slaves, basically. So I don't know. I'm not going to be anybody's slave. I'm not going to do anything that people tell me I have to do. And I didn't. I didn't get the jab. I didn't stick those things up my nose. I didn't wear a mask. I didn't do a lot of things, and I lost a lot of work. But, oh well, we each had to make our own sacrifices. And I have my family bringing me test kits every week, saying you need to be tested. I'm like, I'm not sick. I don't have a fever. I wash my hands. I wipe off the doorknobs. I clean my house. So I don't know. But some people you just can't help some people, I guess. Let me stop that. Let me turn that one off. Let's see. I think I got a couple more. I'm trying to find the right ones. Okay, here's one. I'm going to try to do this one. Let me open it. If I can get it the right one. I think it's a special message. Nope, this one. Ultra. Yeah, Ultra. Here we go. This is it. All right. Okay, I think this is pretty good. Former CDC Director Robert Redfield, by oath, confirmed that they were hiding the side effects of COVID-19 vaccinations. So here we go.
Thank you, Chairman. For 2 years, myself and the other Republicans on this subcommittee connected the dots. We exposed the evidence supporting our strong belief that COVID was developed and leaked from the Wuhan lab. And during those same 2 years, the same Democrats that sit on this committee, they only hindered, they obstructed, they refused to hold hearings and get to the truth. Now we see mounting evidence supporting the COVID-19 originated from the lab in Wuhan, China, run by the Communist Chinese Party. And this hearing is about getting to the truth. I thank the chairman for making this the very first hearing, because the American people who have seen just as many fellow Americans die from COVID, as nearly as many die from COVID that died in every war since the American Revolution combined, deserve to know the truth. Dr. Redfield, you pointed to the lab leak theory even before we did. In mid-January of 2020, you expressed concerns to Dr. Fauci, to Jeremy Farrar of UK's Wellcome Trust, and to Dr. Tedros of World Health Organization that, quote, we had to take the lab leak hypothesis with extreme seriousness. And you urged Dr. Fauci to investigate both the lab and the natural hypotheses. Shortly thereafter, on February 1st, Farrar convened a meeting of a group of 11 top scientists across 5 time zones and asked Dr. Fauci to join. And he wrote, quote, my preference is to keep this group really tight. Obviously, ask everyone to treat in total confidence, unquote. Dr. Redfield, you were excluded from this call, but up until then, you had been on every single, you were included in every other conversation. What changed? Why do you think that you were excluded from these conversations?
Thank you very much. I think just to emphasize, in early to mid-January, I did have multiple calls with Fauci, Farrar, and Tedros about how important I thought it was that science get engaged in aggressively pursuing both hypotheses. I also expressed as a clinical virologist that I felt it was not scientifically plausible that this virus went from a bat to humans and became one of the most infectious viruses that we have for humans. All viruses are not the same. So when you look at coronaviruses for SARS and MERS, for example, when they entered the human species, which they did via an intermediate, they never learned how to go human to human. Even to this day, they don't know how to go human to human. So you can't equate Ebola with a coronavirus.
Now, why do you think you were excluded from those calls?
Because it was told to me that they wanted a single narrative and that I obviously had a different point of view.
Okay. In emails following the conference call, 4 of the 11 scientists told Fauci that they all found the genetic sequence inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory. Basically what you're saying.
I'm gonna pause it for a second. Did you hear what he said? I can back it up for again. He said it can't be passed from human to human. So I'm gonna go back to that again. So give me a second. Listen to
You were
this.
excluded from those calls.
Because I was told when they look at coronavirus, not the same. So when you look at coronaviruses for SARS and MERS, for example, when they entered the human species, which they did via an intermediate, they never learned how to go human to human. Even to this day, they don't know how to go human to human.
You hear that? They can't go human to human. They can't spread the virus from one human to another, so it dies out in that one person. So that's why they needed the vaccine, to make sure that people got it. And with the spike protein, it helps spread it by coughing and shedding on other people, because that was the one thing that SARS and COVID didn't have the capabilities of doing, was going from one human to another, because it can transfer between dogs and other animals, but not people. So, man, it just gets worse and worse every time I turn around. But I'm going to finish this one real quick. Sorry. I'll go back up where it was.
They all found the genetic sequence inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory, basically what you're saying. However, just 3 days later, these 4 scientists had drafted a paper arguing the exact opposite, and that's now the infamous proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2. Our investigations show that this paper was prompted by Dr. Fauci, among others, with a goal to disprove the lab leak theory. What is the likelihood that these scientists came across additional information just 3 days after making these statements to conclude with such certainty that COVID-19 came from nature instead of the lab leak that they thought it was 3 days earlier?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. Again, I've said this before, that this whole approach that was taken on February 1st, and subsequently in the month of February, if you really want to be truthful, it's antithetical to science.
Thank you.
Science has debate, and they squashed any debate.
Thank you. Given what we know now and looking at all the conversations in February of 2020 and before the release of the paper, do you think that Dr. Fauci used this paper to hide the gain-of-function research created this virus?
Yeah.
I can't talk about Fauci's motivation.
Do you think that the paper does hide the truth?
I think it's an inaccurate paper that basically was part of a narrative that they were creating. Remember, this pandemic did not start in January at the seafood market. We now know there was infections all the way back into September. This was a narrative that was decided that they were going to say this came from the wet market, and they were going to do everything they could to support it, to negate any discussion about the possibility that this came from a laboratory.
I got 20 seconds left. Dr. Fauci was affirmatively told in an email that NIAID had a monetary relationship with the Wuhan Institute through EcoHealth Alliance. He was told this in January 27th of 2020. Do you think that Dr. Fauci intentionally lied under oath to Senator Paul when he vehemently denied NIH's funding of gain-of-function research?
I think there's no doubt that NIH was funding gain-of-function research.
Is it likely that American tax dollars funded the gain-of-function research that created this virus?
I think it did, not only from NIH, but from the State Department, USAID, and from DOD.
I'm out of time. Thank you very much.
Now recognize.
Wow. You hear that? We, you and I, the taxpayers, paid for all the people to die and be jabbed up. It was our money. They took our money and they ran experiments on it, on all of us with it. And not just in our country. That's bad enough they did it in our country, but they did it in every country that was able to do the jabs. And their governments used the money they got from us, because we got to remember, we helped share the money with USAID and all the different frauds that we've been finding of the billions of dollars that went to other countries. It's terrible. It's terrible. All of this is terrible. No, I've been a staunch person from the beginning when I was first able to start sharing my voice, that we shouldn't give a single penny to another country, especially if they shout they want death to America, but until we take care of our veterans. If every one of our veterans in the United States of America has a home to live in, whether it's a tiny home or not, doesn't matter. They have a roof over their head, they have 3 meals a day, and they're getting medical care. They can get glasses, get medicine for their heart problems or stomach ailments or whatever it is. If we had that money and we're taking care of all of our veterans, then we can take some of the money and do something to help other organizations outside the United States. But until we have that type of stuff going on in our country, I don't think any of our money should go to another country and pay to take care of their veterans or pay to take care of their people when we don't even take care of our own. That I'm huge about that. I'm sorry, I'm a military brat, and I grew up on bases, and my grandpa was in the Army, my dad was in the Air Force, and I think that we should treat our military better. I just really do. I'm a really big advocate for that. I really think that we lack the skills that we need when these people sitting at all these chairs in these seats here, senators, congressmen, state representatives and stuff, when they get special medical treatment or whatever because of where they are, they're elected, put in there, I don't think they should get any better treatment than our people in the armed forces. Period. Just think about it. If all those people, all those judges and all those, federal judges and stuff all had to have the same health care as an American soldier, I think it would get better really quickly, because if they had to be treated the same way, I think that things would get better. So I think we should pull the plug on all of them in Washington, D.C. For their health cares and stuff like that, and be on the same thing that we give our soldiers. Because I don't think they're worth any more air or treatment than our soldiers are worth. So they should start treating our soldiers better for what they've done. So I really see things that way, but I know I'm terrible, but I can't help it. But here we go. Finish this. I think it's done. I'll turn this one off. And I think I got 2 more left, but they're pretty good, I think. I think this is, let's see, Nicholas. Yeah, I think this, yeah, here it is. Here's one. All right. Let me open this up.
All COVID-19 vaccinated individuals should undergo a cardiac screening to ensure that there is no subclinical heart damage. We just published a peer-reviewed paper, and we found that approximately per dose, about 1% to 3% do suffer a form of heart damage. That means millions and millions of people across the globe have this form of heart inflammation and possibly cardiac scarring that can lead to sudden cardiac arrest. And so subclinical mild pericarditis is not obvious, as you'll see in the figure here right next to me. So you may have some effort intolerance, So you exercise and you're more tired than usual. You might have some palpitations, and you may have some slight chest pain. But most concerningly is the very first manifestation of this syndrome can be sudden cardiac arrest or sudden death. And so it's very important to find out who has incurred this heart damage, the silent heart damage, and fix it and prevent the sudden death from occurring. And so in our paper, we outline a diagnostic and management approach to this silent heart damage in the best attempt to prevent sudden cardiac arrest among vaccine recipients. And so this includes many things. It includes imaging first to detect if there's any scarring or inflammation in the heart, MRIs, ECGs, as well as serial biomarker testing. So looking for BNP, troponin elevations. Is it improving over time? And if there is a detection of the subclinical myocarditis, then it's recommended to abstain from physical activity until these markers normalize.
Yeah, he's right. I'm going to share, let me get that real quick and share that in the chat. Hold on, I got to get it real quick. Darn it, where is it? I got it out of order, so I'm trying to go through here and find them. Oh, well, I'll have to get it from him. So hold on, I gotta get it right here. Copy. Put it in the chat. Here we go. There's the link to what we just played about what kind of things you should ask your doctor about what they need to check you for. But this next thing I want to share is a special message from Erica Kirk. She wants to voice her opinion about some things because she seems very upset about some things that are going on and have been going on since her husband was murdered. So I'm going to play that. So let me fast forward it to that.
At the White ever be enough.
Disagree, go to the front of the line. You guys know how it works. You disagree, you can go to the line. We'll have a great conversation here.
Who are you?
My name is Charlie Kirk, and I love America.
Why are you here?
Because I love talking with people I disagree with.
What have you done for your country?
Started an organization that's now in 1,000+ campuses to save the greatest culture and country ever to exist. I loved talking to people I disagree with. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens.
Seems to me that nothing will ever be enough for the evil in this world. Our country has become unrecognizable. These people have perverted the truth to the point that they motivated the murder of my husband. They have continuously tried to assassinate the president, and anyone who stands in their way is labeled hateful, racist, fascist, and every other trigger word that is grossly dishonest. We want the best for our country. They don't. This is why Charlie started Turning Point USA in the first place. He didn't trust the radicalized liberal teachers. And this past Saturday, it was a school teacher, of all people, a school teacher that attempted to change our history for the worst with bullets. And everyone is asking why I even went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And it was because many of the journalists in that room have attempted to dehumanize me. And I wanted to meet some of them face to face, quite frankly. Why have a conversation about me when you can have a conversation with me? So, for example, a journalist from the Daily Mail came up to me. She introduced herself, and she was very gracious. She was saying, "You look so beautiful. I'm so sorry for your loss." To which I replied, "It is so nice to put a name to the face, especially with all of the slander, the lies, accusations that are out there surrounding my husband's murder and myself." And I said to her, "You know what's so interesting? This is my first time at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and I find it so fascinating, the dynamic that is going on right now, because everyone is all dressed up and you guys are co-mingling in and out of each other's cocktail parties. And so for one night, you are able to put aside all of your differences for the sake of freedom of speech. And then by Monday morning, things will go back to being an absolute bloodbath between all of you. To which she replied, literally, she said, I know, isn't it special, right? Isn't tonight so special? And following that conversation, it was time to take our seats, and we went into the big ballroom where the dinner was. And one of the first things I noticed when I walked into that room was quite literally the proximity of the opposing outlets to one another. So you have one table here that's Politico, and another table here that's Fox, and another table here that's WAPO, and you're all crammed together, elbow to elbow. And to make the night even more of a spectacle, every single 10-person table had 10 bottles of wine. And the president of the White House Correspondents Association, she did a great job of trying to make the evening have that feeling of Americana. You know, we were in a room celebrating freedom of speech despite our differences. And the U.S. Marine Band performed the national anthem so beautifully. And then shortly thereafter, gunshots rang out and total chaos ensued. And you guys have all seen what happened next because there are 1,000 videos of it. So let's discuss that fact for a second. If you were in that room, you had no way of knowing what the status of the shooter was, how many there were, or honestly, really anything. It was just utter chaos. And so during an active shooting, these journalists are using their phones to find moments to capture for clips. They were so concerned about getting a video in a room with an active shooter that they could have accidentally and quite literally filmed themselves being shot. Many of those people have become so desensitized that fight or flight became secondary to the opportunity of putting themselves into the story, which ironically breaks the #1 rule of journalism. And again, ironically enough, the shooter was a teacher. You have these people who are supposed to be teaching our children the future of this country, and he's so unhinged that he is able to teach children by day and then attempt to murder the president of the United States by night. And in his manifesto, he starts by contextualizing himself by saying, I am a citizen of the United States of America. And while we may have big problems with illegal immigration in this country, I have to tell you, we have an even bigger problem when it comes to the systemic indoctrination and radicalization of our own citizens. This is what got my husband killed. This is what has led to 3 legitimate attempts on President Trump's life. And I can speak firsthand to that unbearable toll that this must take on our First Lady. Mm-hmm. There has never been a president who has faced this many assassination attempts in Americans' entire history. And after each one, the reaction from the far left has been, at best, a shrug, and in some cases, a sick disappointment that the shooter was unsuccessful. We are all human beings. And if you can just pause and just take a minute and ask yourself, how would you feel if even just one person made cruel jokes about the attempted murder of your loved one? That is what Jimmy Kimmel did to the First Lady. He said that she had the glow of an expected widow. The glow of an expected widow. Just 48 hours before that nightmare almost became a reality. And this culture we're living in absorbs disagreement as a form of personal betrayal. It turns having an opposing viewpoint into a moral crime worthy of punishment. And here's what I've realized through all of this, truly, Having lived through quite literal hell these past 7 months, if you strip someone of their humanity long enough, you will arrive at the chilling conclusion that they don't deserve to exist at all. Every morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO, and I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on. There is a serious epidemic of dehumanization plaguing this country. The most unthinkable tragedies have now become commonplace in our daily headlines, and yet the media finds a way to conveniently explain away violence. This is what we're up against. This is what we're up against. What is happening right now is something none of us can afford to ignore. The evil forces working to divide us, to distract us, and to pull us apart has never been stronger. This is a moment for Americans to come together and decide what kind of country we are going to be before we lose our country altogether. In Romans chapter 12, verse 21, it says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." And this is why my husband created Turning Point USA, so we could have civil discourse and debate and open dialogue, because when we stop talking to each other, bad things happen. I am choosing to fight for America, for my children, for your children, and for our humanity, because we all need to do our part. And by the grace of God, we will succeed, and America will remain what she was always called to be, a shining city on a hill, a light to the world. So let me give you a perfect example of how it's done. My husband did it best and left us the blueprint on how to have uncomfortable conversations with those who disagree. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
So my stance today is on immigration. I think that immigration contributes a lot to America. So my parents did come here legally, and they right now are in the process again, and it takes a long time. No, they came here legally, like they came with their visa, and now they're renewing it, and it's a different process right now. But so I'm really religious. I'm Catholic. My parents grew me up that way. And in Matthew 2:13-15, it talks about how Jesus had to flee Bethlehem, sorry. He had to flee because someone was going to die, and they were looking to kill him, and he had to flee his own country and leave everything behind because an angel spoke to Mary and Joseph that they should leave. So a lot of people do that. That's why they immigrate to the United States. A lot of people have to leave everything behind because not everyone just wants to pack up all their things and leave. Right now, I personally would hate if I had to sell my car, my house, leave my parents, leave my friends, and leave everyone. So I just want to know what your stance is on that, just because in the Bible it talks about that.
Right. So first of all, Jesus actually didn't emigrate. He stayed within the confines of the Roman Empire because Egypt was actually under Roman jurisdiction. That's a separate point. But there are plenty of verses that says you should welcome the stranger. And so I will grant you that. I guess the first point I would have to ask is, should immigration always benefit the home country?
I think so, yes. And that is one thing that I looked into. So there are immigrants right now working here, correct? And they get some of their paycheck cut off, right, because of Social Security and all those benefits. But they don't get those benefits because they're illegal.
So do you
immigrants.
mean legal or illegal immigrants? That distinction is very important.
Illegal. They don't get those benefits.
Right. So let's just be clear. If they have a Social Security number, how'd they get that?
The right way.
They stole it. You don't get a Social Security number as an illegal, period. It does not happen. They stole it.
Okay.
So that's an act of theft.
And
so they stole an American Social Security number to be able to work here, which drives down wages, which drives down opportunity costs. But even beyond that, we just have to look at their action. They were not invited to come to this country. They broke in line, they cut in line, and we should not reward line cutters or border jumpers. We should reward people like your parents that actually came here legally to this country.
Well, that's what I want to end it with, because he and his wife tried to do what they could while they were together on this planet. He's no longer here, so she has to do what she can on her own and with her family, his family. I'm sure they have
they spent a lot of time together since she and he had 2 little children. And I hope that they, visit, his parents visit and stuff too, because I think children need grandparents and parents. So I just wanted to end with that, because I think it's important that we don't give up, that we don't quit, that we keep fighting to get the truth out and to make our country better for the future generations that we know are hopefully going to be still coming. You know what I mean? So that's all I wanted to share tonight. But I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and hopefully you'll stop in tomorrow night and see me. I don't know who's joining me yet. Hopefully it'll be somebody joining me. I don't like doing it by myself, but for the Friday Night Shit Show. But you guys have a wonderful evening.
Boys and girls all over the world are being abused and tortured.
The worst moments of these children's lives, they're being videotaped and they're being shared with other offenders all over the world.
Many people would refer to this as CSAM, child sexual abuse material.
They are suffering and they don't think that anyone is coming to help them. But we can. We can build that army and we can go get them.
Come be a part of this team that is trying to push back this evil.